My grandfather always said life could change in a single day. I never believed him until it happened to me. I was sitting beside Grandpa George's hospital bed when the doctor walked into the room. The moment I saw his face, my stomach dropped. Doctors never looked like that when they had good news. I stood immediately. "How is he?" The doctor closed the door behind him. That small movement terrified me. "The surgery cannot be delayed any longer, Miss Carter." My heart sank. I already knew what was coming. "The procedure will cost $2 million." For a second, I heard nothing. Not the machines, not the footsteps outside, not even my own breathing. 2 million. I didn't even have $50 in my account. "The surgery must happen within 72 hours. I looked at Grandpa. He was asleep, peaceful, unaware that someone had just put a price on his life. "What happens if we can't pay?" I whispered. The doctor looked away. That was the answer. After he left, I sat beside Grandpa and held his hand. His fingers felt weak around mine. A few minutes later, his eyes opened. "Why are you crying, sweetheart?" I quickly wiped my cheeks. "I'm not." He smiled faintly. "You were always a terrible liar." That broke me. When my parents died, Grandpa became everything: my father, my mother, my home. He worked double shifts to raise me. He skipped meals so I could eat. He sold his truck so I could stay in school. Every good thing in my life had his fingerprints on it, and now I couldn't save him. For the next 2 days, I begged the world for help. Banks rejected me. Charities couldn't help. Everyone was sorry. Nobody had $2 million. The clock kept moving. Every hour felt like a hand closing around my throat. Then a man approached me in the hospital lobby. Expensive suit, calm eyes, professional smile. "My name is Richard Bennett." I frowned. "Okay." "I represent the Blackwell family." I had no idea who that was. He handed me a card. "I'd like to discuss an opportunity." 5 minutes later, I almost laughed in his face. Marriage. That was his opportunity. Marriage to a complete stranger, a billionaire. I stood immediately. "Absolutely not." Richard remained calm. "Miss Carter, please listen." "No." I grabbed my bag. "I'm not marrying anyone for money." Then I walked away. At that same moment, across the city, Damian Blackwell was standing inside a glass boardroom on the top floor of Blackwell Tower. I didn't know his name would soon become mine. Arthur Blackwell sat at the head of the table, one hand resting on a silver cane. Even at 78, he commanded the room. Damian stood opposite him in a black suit, cold and impatient. "Grandfather, I have a company to run." Arthur looked at him. "No, you have an empire to inherit?" Damian's jaw tightened. "Not this again." "Yes, this again." The lawyers around the table went silent. Arthur lifted his cane and struck it once against the floor. Damian didn't flinch. Everyone else did. "You have everything money can buy, yet nobody waits for you when you go home." "I don't need a wife." Arthur's eyes hardened. "Then I will find one for you." Damian laughed once, cold, humorless. "That's absurd." Arthur turned to Richard Bennett. "You have 2 days." Richard nodded. "2 days, sir?" "Find my grandson a wife." Damian stepped forward. "I refuse." Arthur's voice dropped. "Then I transfer controlling shares of Blackwell Technologies to the Blackwell Foundation." The room went still. Damian stared at him. For the first time, he understood. His grandfather wasn't bluffing. By evening, Richard returned to the hospital. I was sitting outside Grandpa's room, too tired to cry. "I know you refused," he said gently. "Then why are you here?" "Because your grandfather's surgery has a deadline." I looked away. He continued. The contract could solve that. I hated him for saying it. I hated myself for listening. That night, I sat beside Grandpa and watched him sleep. His chest rose slowly, then fell, slowly, too slowly. I remembered him carrying me home when I was sick. I remembered him saying, "As long as I'm alive, you're never alone." My throat tightened. But what if he wasn't alive? What if I let pride bury the only person who had ever stayed? The next morning, the doctor stopped me outside the room. "We need approval soon." I closed my eyes. Grandpa had sacrificed everything for me. Now it was my turn. I called Richard. An hour later, I agreed to meet Damian Blackwell. The meeting took place inside Blackwell Tower. Everything looked expensive. Everything felt cold. The people looked at me like I didn't belong. Then the conference room door opened. Damian Blackwell walked in. Tall, handsome, perfectly dressed, completely arrogant. He didn't smile, didn't greet me, didn't apologize for being late. He simply sat down like the world had been waiting for him. Richard introduced us. Damian barely looked at me. "Can we finish this quickly?" I stared at him. "Seriously?" The lawyers shifted uncomfortably. Damian didn't care. He looked bored, like I was another document he needed to sign. Something inside me snapped. I stood. "I've heard enough." Richard's eyes widened. "Miss Carter?" I looked directly at Damian. "Find someone else." Then I walked out. My heart was pounding. I hated him. I hated his office. I hated the entire arrangement. I kept walking down the hallway. Then I remembered Grandpa, 72 hours, $2 million, his hand in mine, his voice calling me sweetheart. My steps slowed. Behind me, Damian's voice cut through the silence. $10 million. I froze. Slowly, I turned. He stood at the conference room door, expression unreadable. 1 year, $10 million. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. 10 million. I needed 2. I needed Grandpa to live. I walked back slowly. Every step felt like surrender. Damian watched me like he had already won. I stopped in front of him. "If I agree," his eyes narrowed, "I want 2 million up front." The room went silent. Damian's face changed immediately. There it was, disgust, judgment, confirmation. He thought he understood me. He thought I had a price. He didn't know that I was standing there with my heart breaking. He didn't know I was selling 1 year of my life to buy Grandpa a chance at another. Finally, he said one word, "Done." No hesitation, no warmth, just done. The contract was prepared quickly. 1 year, public marriage, 10 million at the end, 2 million immediately. My hand shook when I signed. Damian's did not. A few hours later, I stood beside him at City Hall in a simple dress. No flowers, no family, no love. Just lawyers and signatures. The official smiled. Damian didn't. I didn't either. "Congratulations," she said. Just like that, I became Mrs. Blackwell. The drive to the mansion was silent. Neither of us spoke. When we arrived, Damian finally looked at me. "This marriage is business." His voice was ice. "I don't want complications." I laughed bitterly. "Trust me, neither do I." His eyes flashed. "Good. At least we agreed on hatred." A maid showed me to a room larger than my entire apartment. I stood there alone in silence. Then my phone rang. The hospital. My heart stopped. I answered quickly. "Miss Carter, the payment has been received." My knees almost gave out. "The surgery is approved." I covered my mouth. Tears filled my eyes. "Thank you." After the call ended, I transferred the money exactly where it needed to go. To the account Richard had helped arrange, to the name connected to Grandpa's emergency care, George Miller. Then I made one quiet phone call. "The money is there now." My voice shook. Please don't tell him. I swallowed hard. I don't want him worrying. I hung up and cried into my hands. Downstairs, Damian sat in his office with Ethan Reed standing before him. Run a background investigation, Damian said. Ethan frowned. On your wife? Damian's eyes turned cold. Especially on my wife? Later that night, Ethan returned with a file. It's preliminary, he said. Damian leaned back. Tell me. The $2 million was transferred almost immediately. Damian smirked. Of course it was. Ethan hesitated. To a man. Damian's smile disappeared. What? Ethan placed the document on the desk. Recipient, George Miller. Relationship, unknown. Damian stared at the name. Then Ethan added, there was also a call. He slid over the transcript. The money is there now. Please don't tell him. I don't want him worrying. Damian's jaw tightened. His eyes turned colder than I had ever seen. He looked down at the marriage certificate. Then he laughed once, bitter. I married a gold digger. He closed the file. And she's hiding another man. The next morning, I woke up in a mansion that didn't feel like home. For a moment, I forgot where I was. Then I saw the marriage certificate on the bedside table. Reality came crashing back. I was married to Damian Blackwell, the most arrogant man I had ever met. I groaned and buried my face in a pillow. A knock sounded on the door. A maid entered. Mrs. Blackwell, breakfast is ready. Mrs. Blackwell. The title still felt wrong. Everything about this marriage felt wrong. A few minutes later, I walked into the dining room. The table was enormous. Only 2 seats were occupied, mine and Damian's. He didn't even look up when I entered. He continued reading financial reports. I sat down. Silence. Cold, awkward silence. Then Damian finally spoke. You're late. I stared at him. Good morning to you too. His eyes lifted briefly, then returned to the papers. I have rules. I already hated where this was going. Congratulations. His jaw tightened. Breakfast is served at 7. I glanced at the clock. 7:03. Seriously? I'll try to recover from this terrible crime. His eyes narrowed. Mine narrowed back. The war had officially begun. By the time breakfast ended, neither of us was speaking, which suited me just fine. The moment he left for work, I headed straight for the hospital. Grandpa was awake when I arrived. His face lit up immediately. There she is. I smiled for the first time all day. How are you feeling? Better now. That was another thing about Grandpa. Even when he was suffering, he worried about everyone else, never himself. I sat beside him for hours, talking, laughing, pretending everything was normal. I didn't tell him about the marriage, not yet. I couldn't. Back at Blackwell Tower, Damian sat in his office reviewing the first investigation file. George Miller, unknown male. The name stared back at him. Ethan stood nearby. We're still digging. Damian tossed the file onto his desk. Dig faster. You really think she's involved with him? Damian laughed. Cold, humorless. The money disappeared within hours. Ethan said nothing. Because the facts didn't look good. Not from Damian's side. That evening, I returned to the mansion. The moment I stepped inside, Damian was waiting, arms crossed, expression unreadable. For some reason, that irritated me immediately. What? His eyes moved to the clock. It's after 9. I blinked. Okay. You didn't inform anyone where you were. I stared at him, then laughed. You think I need permission? His expression darkened. I think basic communication isn't difficult. Then communicate this. I smiled sweetly. I don't answer to you. For a moment, neither of us moved. The tension crackled between us. Then I walked past him. A second later, his voice stopped me. Where were you? I froze. My heart skipped. The hospital, Grandpa, the secret I couldn't reveal. I turned slowly. Out. His eyes hardened. That's not an answer. It's the only one you're getting. Then I walked away. The next morning was worse, and the morning after that. Every breakfast became an argument. Every dinner became a battle. Every conversation became a competition neither of us wanted to lose. Then came our first public appearance. Arthur Blackwell had organized a charity luncheon. Apparently, married couples were expected to attend together. Lucky me. The moment we arrived, cameras surrounded us. Questions flew from every direction. Mr. Blackwell, how did you meet? Was it love at first sight? Where will you honeymoon? I almost laughed. Love. The man couldn't stand me. Damian wrapped an arm around my waist. The movement shocked me. For a second, I forgot how to breathe. Then he leaned closer, just enough for the cameras. Smile. His voice was barely audible. I forced a smile. The cameras flashed. A perfect married couple. A complete lie. Inside the ballroom, things became worse. Women stared, whispered, judged. I could practically hear their thoughts. Who is she? Why her? What makes her worthy? One blonde woman approached our table. Beautiful, elegant, rich. The type of woman who clearly belonged in Damian's world, not mine. She looked me up and down, then smiled. The smile never reached her eyes. You must be Amelia. I nodded politely. And you are? Her smile widened. Someone who knows Damian much better than you. Great. One of those. Before I could respond, Damian appeared beside me. His expression immediately cooled. The woman noticed and looked annoyed. Interesting. For the first time, I wondered if Damian disliked her too. The event dragged on forever. By the time it ended, I was exhausted. The drive home was silent. Again. Then my phone rang. The hospital. My heart immediately tightened. I answered. Hello? The nurse sounded concerned. We need you to come in. Fear shot through me. What happened? It's your grandfather. My blood ran cold. I'm coming. I hung up instantly. The car had barely stopped before I opened the door. What are you doing? Damian asked. I have somewhere to be. His eyes narrowed. Where? I ignored him and walked away. Behind me, I heard him mutter something under his breath. I didn't care. The hospital mattered more. Everything mattered more. When I reached Grandpa's room, relief flooded through me. He was awake, alive, smiling. The nurse had overreacted. Again. I almost cried from relief. That night, I stayed longer than usual. Long after visiting hours ended. Long after most of the lights dimmed. I sat beside Grandpa's bed holding his hand. Exactly where I wanted to be. Across the city, Ethan entered Damian's office carrying another update. We traced another call. Damian looked up immediately. To the same number? Ethan nodded. Yes. Damian's jaw tightened. Every new detail seemed to confirm the same thing. The mysterious man existed. The secret continued. The lies continued, at least in Damian's mind. Meanwhile, I had no idea any investigation was happening. No idea someone was watching pieces of my life and drawing the wrong conclusions. The next morning, I arrived at breakfast tired and running late. Damian was already seated, waiting. The moment I sat down, he pushed a folder across the table. I frowned. What is this? A schedule? I opened it. My eyes widened. Meetings, events, appearances, interviews. The next several weeks planned down to the minute. I looked back at him. You've got to be kidding. I'm not. I closed the folder. I have a life. His expression remained cold. Not anymore. Something inside me snapped. I stood so fast my chair nearly fell over. Then maybe you married the wrong woman. For the first time, Damian stood too. Now we were face to face, neither willing to back down, neither willing to blink. His eyes locked onto mine, angry, cold, suspicious. For one strange moment, I saw something else there, something almost like curiosity. Then it vanished, just as quickly as it appeared. A second later, Ethan entered the dining room carrying a tablet. His expression was serious. Immediately, Damian noticed. Something had changed. "Mr. Blackwell." Ethan rarely interrupted breakfast, especially not like this. Damian frowned. "What is it?" Ethan glanced briefly in my direction, then back at Damian. "It's about the investigation." My stomach tightened. "Investigation? What investigation?" Damian immediately stood. "Office." Just one word. Ethan nodded. The two men walked away. Neither bothered explaining anything. Typical. A few minutes later, I was alone at the breakfast table, confused, annoyed, and completely unaware that upstairs everything was changing. Inside Damian's office, Ethan placed a thick file on the desk. Damian opened it. His expression remained cold. For about 3 seconds. Then it changed. His eyes narrowed. "What is this?" Ethan pointed toward the page. We finally identified George Miller. Damian stared at the report, then read it again and again, because what he was looking at made absolutely no sense. Hospital records, medical requests, emergency treatment approvals, everything connected to one patient, George Miller, the man I had sent $2 million to, the man Damian believed I was hiding, the man Damian believed I loved. Damian's jaw tightened. Something wasn't adding up. Then Ethan turned another page, and everything became worse, far worse. Damian slowly stood, his face turned dark, dangerously dark. "Where is she?" Ethan swallowed. "Blackwell Memorial Hospital." Damian grabbed his car keys without another word, without another explanation, and without knowing whether he was about to prove me innocent or catch me in the biggest lie of all. Damian grabbed his car keys without another word, without another explanation, and without knowing whether he was about to prove me innocent or catch me in the biggest lie of all. Meanwhile, I had no idea any of that was happening. The moment Damian disappeared upstairs with Ethan, I grabbed my bag. Whatever investigation they were discussing wasn't my concern. I had somewhere more important to be, the hospital. I hurried toward the front door. A few minutes later, I was driving through morning traffic. Every day started the same way now. Worry, fear, hope, prayer. By the time I reached the hospital, my heart was already racing. I stepped into Grandpa's room and immediately smiled. He was awake, reading a newspaper, looking stronger than he had in weeks. "There she is," I laughed softly. "There you are." For the next hour, everything felt normal. No contract, no billionaire husband, no mansion, just me and Grandpa, the way it had always been. Meanwhile, Damian arrived at Blackwell Memorial Hospital. A nurse pointed him toward Grandpa's room. As he approached, the door was slightly open. Then he heard my voice. "You scared me," George laughed weakly. "I wasn't planning to." Damian slowed. Then he heard me again. "Don't do that again." My voice cracked. "I can't lose you too." Something about the words made him stop. Then George spoke. "Sweetheart, you've been taking care of me since your parents died." Damian froze. George continued. "You've been carrying the world on your shoulders for years." I looked away. "I only have one shoulder left to carry." George smiled sadly. "You still have me." Tears filled my eyes. Then came the sentence that changed everything, the sentence Damian would never forget. You're all I have left, Grandpa. Outside the room, Damian stood motionless. The truth hit him instantly. George Miller wasn't my boyfriend, wasn't my lover, wasn't another man. He was my grandfather, the man whose surgery I had sacrificed everything to pay for, the man I had married a stranger to save. A few seconds later, Damian stepped into the room. I looked up and froze. My heart nearly stopped. "What are you doing here?" Before Damian could answer, Grandpa lowered his newspaper. His eyes moved between us, confused, curious. Then he asked, "Who is this?" My stomach dropped. Not now, not here. Without thinking, I grabbed Damian's arm. "Excuse us for a second." Then I practically dragged him into the hallway. The moment the door closed, I turned toward him. "What are you doing here?" Damian hesitated. "Just briefly." "I had a meeting." I frowned. "A meeting?" "Hospital board meeting." That made sense. The hospital belonged to him. Then he added, "I saw you." I stared at him. "And you followed me?" His jaw tightened. "I was making sure everything was okay." For a moment, both of us looked surprised, because that sounded suspiciously like concern. Before I could respond, I glanced through the glass. Grandpa was watching, waiting, smiling, completely confused. A fresh wave of panic hit me. I looked back at Damian. For the first time since meeting him, I asked for something. "Please." He blinked. I had never said that word to him before. "Please what?" I swallowed. "Please don't tell him." His brow furrowed. "Tell him what?" "That this marriage isn't real." Silence. I looked away, embarrassed. "My grandfather believes in happy endings." The words came out smaller than I intended. "He's finally getting better." "I don't want him worrying about me." Damian stared at me. Then I said quietly, "Just for today. Please pretend we're a normal married couple." For several seconds, he said nothing. Then he nodded, just once. No argument, no sarcasm, no conditions. A few moments later, we walked back into the room together. Grandpa looked between us, still waiting, still confused. I forced an awkward smile. "Grandpa," my voice cracked, "this is Damian." Grandpa raised an eyebrow. I took a deep breath, then said the words, "My husband." For a second, Grandpa simply stared. Then his eyes widened. "Husband?" I wanted the floor to swallow me. "You got married?" I nodded awkwardly. "When?" "A few weeks ago." "A few weeks ago?" Grandpa looked genuinely offended. "You got married and didn't tell me?" I winced. Then something unexpected happened. Damian stepped in. "We wanted to tell you together." I turned and stared at him. He didn't even look at me. He just kept going. "You were recovering. We didn't want to stress you." Grandpa's expression softened immediately, and just like that, Damian saved us. The rest of the visit became a performance. Grandpa asked questions, far too many questions. How did we meet? Where was the wedding? Who proposed? Every time I stumbled, Damian stepped in. Every time Grandpa got suspicious, Damian smoothed things over. For the first time since our marriage, we worked together, and somehow, we were good at it. When we finally left the hospital, I released a long breath. "Thank you." Damian looked surprised. "For what?" "For helping." He nodded, then looked away. The drive home felt different. Not warm, not friendly, just different. The next few days passed surprisingly peacefully. The arguments became smaller. The insults became less frequent. The tension remained, but it softened. One morning, I walked into the dining room expecting another battle. Instead, a cup of coffee sat beside my plate. Extra cream, no sugar, exactly how I liked it. I frowned, then looked at Damian. He didn't look up from his newspaper. For a moment, I wondered if it was coincidence. Then I noticed the corner of his mouth, the smallest hint of a smile. My heart skipped, just once, but once was enough. A few days later, Arthur insisted we attend another charity gala. Apparently, being married came with obligations. The ballroom was packed. Executives, politicians, socialites, people who looked like they had never worried about anything in their lives. I felt out of place immediately. Then the whispers started. I ignored them until one woman approached me, elegant, expensive, judgmental. She looked me up and down. "So you're the girl," I frowned. "The girl?" "The one who married for money." Several people turned toward us, listening, watching, waiting. The woman smiled. "Tell me, how much did he pay?" Heat flooded my face. I tried walking away. The woman stepped in front of me, blocking my path. Then she bumped my shoulder. Hard. Champagne splashed across my dress. A few people laughed. The woman smirked. "Careful. Some of us actually belong here." Humiliation burned through me. I turned to leave, but my heel caught on the edge of my dress. Suddenly, I lost my balance. The floor rushed toward me. Then strong arms caught me, one around my waist, the other steadying my back. The room disappeared. The music disappeared. Everything disappeared, except Damian. I looked up, straight into his eyes. For a moment, neither of us moved. Neither of us spoke. His hand remained firmly around my waist. My heart started beating too fast. And for the first time since meeting him, I wasn't angry. For the first time since marrying me, he wasn't looking at me with suspicion, just concern, real concern. The distance between us felt impossibly small. His gaze dropped briefly. To my lips, my breath caught. His eyes lifted back to mine. And for one terrifying second, it felt like he was about to kiss me. Then, a woman's voice cut through the silence. Cold, sharp, disbelieving. "Damian!" Both of us froze. I turned. A stunning blonde woman stood a few feet away. Designer gown, perfect makeup. The kind of beauty that made every head in the room turn. Her eyes were locked on Damian, not me. Damian's entire body went rigid, and that was when I knew. He knew her very well. The woman looked from Damian to his hands still wrapped around my waist, then back to me. Her expression darkened. "Why would you save this gold digger?" "She just married you for money." "Why would you save this gold digger?" Vanessa's voice cut through the ballroom. "She just married you for money." The entire room went silent. I was still in Damian's arms, his hand still around my waist, his body still close enough to steal my breath. For 1 second, I forgot how to move. Then Damian slowly helped me stand, careful, controlled, protective. That somehow made Vanessa's eyes darken even more. "Hello, Vanessa." His voice was flat. No warmth, no softness, nothing. Vanessa. The name settled heavily in my chest. She stepped closer like she owned the space between them. Beautiful, elegant, perfect, and dangerous. "You didn't answer me." Damian's jaw tightened. "Don't insult my wife." "My wife." The words should not have affected me. They did. Vanessa laughed. "Your wife?" Her eyes moved to me with open disgust. "This girl?" I lifted my chin. "And you are?" Vanessa smiled, the kind of smile meant to cut. "His ex-fiancé." My heart dropped. Ex-fiancé. I looked at Damian. He said nothing. That silence hurt more than I expected. Vanessa noticed. "Of course she did." "You didn't tell her about me?" Damian's voice turned colder. There was nothing to tell. Her smile faltered. Only for a second. Then she recovered. "Really?" She looked at me again. "Then let me help. Damian and I were supposed to get married before he made this embarrassing mistake." The insult landed hard. Before I could respond, Damian stepped in front of me. Enough of his body blocked mine that the entire room noticed. "Walk away, Vanessa." Her eyes flashed. "You used to speak to me differently. I used to trust you." The words sliced through the air. Vanessa went still. So did I. Something had happened between them. Something ugly. Something unfinished. The rest of the gala became unbearable. Vanessa lingered nearby like a shadow. She spoke to donors near us, laughed too loudly, touched Damian's arm once and pretended it was an accident. He immediately stepped away. I told myself I didn't care. I told myself this marriage was fake. I told myself Damian's past was none of my business. So why did watching her near him make my chest tighten? By the time we left, my head was full of questions I had no right to ask. The car ride home was quiet. The city lights slid across Damian's face. Sharp, beautiful, unreadable. Finally, I couldn't stop myself. "Why didn't you marry her?" His hands tightened slightly on the steering wheel. For a moment, I thought he wouldn't answer. Then he said, "Because she left." I turned toward him. "What?" His eyes stayed on the road. "She disappeared when my company was under investigation, when I almost lost everything." The bitterness in his voice was quiet, but deep. "When I recovered, she came back." My anger toward him softened before I could stop it. "So you don't love her?" Damian glanced at me. The question had escaped before I could catch it. My face burned. "I mean, not that I care." For the first time that night, his mouth twitched. "Of course." I looked out the window quickly. My heart was beating too fast again. Over the next few days, Vanessa didn't disappear. She didn't stay at the mansion. Damian would never allow that. But somehow, she was everywhere. At charity meetings, at business dinners, outside Blackwell Tower. At every event Arthur's name touched. Always smiling, always polished, always close enough to remind me that she had known Damian first. And every time she appeared, she looked at me like I was temporary, like I was a stain she planned to remove. One afternoon, I found her waiting near the entrance of a private luncheon. She looked me up and down. "Still here?" I smiled sweetly. "Still bitter?" Her eyes sharpened. "You think he cares about you?" I said nothing, because I hated that the question hurt. Vanessa stepped closer. "Damian doesn't love women like you. Women like me, poor, ordinary, temporary." I forced myself to smile. "Then why are you so worried?" For the first time, her mask cracked. Only a little, but enough. That evening, Damian came home late. I was in the library pretending to read. Really, I was waiting. Not for him. At least that's what I told myself. When he walked in, his tie was loose. His shoulders were tense, his eyes looked tired. I stood before I could stop myself. "Rough day?" He looked surprised, then nodded. "Something like that." "You should rest." He stared at me, as if kindness confused him more than anger ever had. Then his expression softened, just slightly. "Are you worried about me, Amelia?" My throat tightened. "No." His mouth curved. Terrible liar. The words hit too close to Grandpa's. For a moment, neither of us moved. The air changed. Quiet, heavy, dangerous. Then Damian took one slow step closer. My breath caught. The distance between us shrank. Not enough, too much. I didn't know which. Then his phone rang. The spell broke. He looked down. His face hardened instantly. Vanessa. Of course. He rejected the call. That should have made me feel better. It didn't. Later that night, I went downstairs for water. The mansion was quiet. Too quiet. As I passed the terrace doors, I heard Vanessa's voice outside. I stopped. She was on the phone, angry, careless. "I don't care what it takes." My hand tightened around the glass. "I need her out of his life." My stomach dropped. There was silence. Then Vanessa laughed softly, cold. ugly. Damian belongs with me. Another pause. Then she said, once she's gone, he'll remember that. My blood ran cold. I stepped back. The floor creaked. Vanessa turned. Our eyes met through the glass. She knew. I knew. Neither of us spoke. Then she smiled, slowly, like a warning. I went upstairs without telling Damian. I didn't know why. Maybe pride, maybe fear, maybe because I hated admitting Vanessa had scared me. The next evening, she came to the mansion uninvited. A security guard tried to stop her. She pushed past him like rules were for other people. Damian was in the foyer. I was halfway down the stairs when I saw her. Vanessa's face was pale with anger. I need to talk to you. Damian's expression turned cold. No. She laughed. You can't avoid me forever. I can. You don't love her. The words hit me like ice. I stopped on the stairs. Damian didn't look away from Vanessa. This conversation is over. No, it isn't. Her voice shook. I know you, Damian. I know how you act when something is real. He stepped closer. And I know how you act when you want something that no longer belongs to you. Vanessa flinched. Then her eyes lifted. She saw me on the stairs and smiled, cruelly. Does your wife know? My stomach tightened. Damian's jaw hardened. Know what? Vanessa looked straight at me. That you don't even sleep in the same room. The mansion went silent. So silent I could hear my own heartbeat. Damian turned. Our eyes met. For one terrible second, I felt exposed, humiliated, because she was right. We didn't share a room. We didn't share a bed. We barely knew what we were. Vanessa folded her arms, certain she had won. Some marriage. Damian slowly walked toward the stairs, toward me. My breath caught. What are you doing? I whispered. He didn't answer. He reached me, lifted one hand to my face. His palm was warm against my cheek. My heart stopped. Then he leaned down and kissed me. Not a polite kiss, not a fake kiss, not a performance. A real kiss, deep, slow, possessive. The kind of kiss that erased thought. For a second, I forgot Vanessa, forgot the staircase, forgot the contract. I forgot everything except the feel of Damian's mouth on mine. When he pulled back, I could barely breathe. Neither could he. His eyes stayed on mine for one dangerous second. Then he turned toward Vanessa. This is my wife. His voice was low, final. Then he bent down, lifted me into his arms, and carried me down the hallway. I was too shocked to speak. Vanessa stood frozen below us, humiliated, furious, defeated. Damian stopped at the top of the stairs and looked back. And you are no longer welcome in my house. Then he carried me into his bedroom. The door closed behind us, and suddenly we were alone. The bedroom door closed behind us. Silence, complete silence. Damian was still holding me, his arms around me, my heart pounding so hard I could barely breathe. For a moment, neither of us moved, neither of us spoke. The kiss lingered between us, the memory, the feeling, the shock. Then reality crashed back. I stepped away, fast, too fast. What was that? My voice came out shaky. Damian looked at me, his expression unreadable. The kiss? I swallowed hard. I am not part of whatever fight you and Vanessa are having. His eyes narrowed. Amelia? No. I shook my head. I won't be used as a weapon. The words hurt more than they should have. I won't let you play with my emotions just to prove a point. For the first time all evening, Damian looked genuinely affected. Then he stepped closer. You think that's why I kissed you? What else am I supposed to think? Silence. Then Damian spoke quietly. You're my wife. It's a contract. No. His voice stopped me instantly. I looked back. His eyes were locked on mine. You're Amelia. My breath caught. Vanessa is my past. Another step. More important than her games. Another step. More important than anyone. My heart stopped. The room felt too small. His hand lifted slowly, brushing a strand of hair behind my ear. The touch was gentle, painfully gentle. His gaze dropped to my lips, then back to my eyes, and suddenly, everything changed. Because I knew I wasn't the only one feeling it. That terrified me. For several seconds, we simply stood there. Then panic won. I stepped back. We should go to sleep. Damian didn't stop me. He only watched as I left. Back inside my room, I leaned against the door. My heart refused to calm down. Across the hall, Damian sat alone in the darkness, unable to sleep, thinking about exactly the same thing. The next morning, breakfast felt dangerous. Every glance lasted too long. Every silence felt loaded. I reached for the coffee pot at the same time he did. Our fingers brushed, a tiny touch, nothing, everything. Neither of us moved. Then I pulled away first, coward. Damian's mouth curved slightly. Did you sleep? Yes. No, you didn't. I looked up. How would you know? His eyes held mine, because I didn't either. My breath caught. He looked away first, but the damage was already done. Days passed. The fighting almost disappeared. Instead of arguing, we talked. Instead of avoiding each other, we stayed close. One afternoon, Grandpa called and insisted we take him shopping for furniture. He said recovery was boring. He said he needed fresh air. He said married couples should be useful. So somehow, Damian Blackwell spent an afternoon helping my grandfather choose a reading chair. Grandpa tested every chair in the store, every single one. Damian followed him patiently. I tried not to smile. I failed. At one point, Grandpa whispered, "He watches you when you're not looking." My face burned. He does not. Grandpa only smiled. Worst liar in the family. Later, outside the store, rain suddenly poured. Cold, heavy, unexpected. I gasped and covered my head. Damian immediately removed his jacket and placed it around my shoulders. "You'll get wet," I said. "I'll survive." "It's expensive. So are hospital bills." I stared at him. He froze. For a second, regret crossed his face. Not insult, not judgment. Regret. Then he said quietly, "I shouldn't have said that." I held the jacket tighter around me. "No, you shouldn't have." The rain softened. So did his voice. "I was wrong about you." I looked at him, really looked at him. I know. That should have been enough. It wasn't. Because the way he looked at me made my anger melt into something far more dangerous. That evening, Grandpa made us stay for dinner. He watched us the entire time, too closely, too happily. When Damian reached for the salt, I reached too. Our hands touched again. This time, neither of us pulled away quickly enough. Grandpa cleared his throat. Loudly, we both let go, immediately. He laughed. "You two are terrible at pretending." "Pretending what?" I asked. "That you're not falling in love?" My fork nearly slipped. Damian coughed. I stared at Grandpa in horror. "Grandpa." "What?" He looked innocent. Too innocent. I'm old, not blind. The drive home was quiet, but not uncomfortable. Just full of things we were both too afraid to say. At the mansion, I went to the balcony for air. A few minutes later, Damian appeared behind me. Of course he did. "Can't sleep again?" he asked. I looked out at the city. Apparently not. He stood beside me, close, not touching, but close enough to feel. For a while, neither of us spoke. Then I asked the question that had been haunting me. "Do you regret it?" His head turned slightly. "What?" "Marrying me." The silence that followed almost broke me. Then Damian answered, "No." One word, quiet, certain. My heart tightened. Then he added, "Not anymore." I closed my eyes. Those two words ruined me. Not anymore. I wanted to ask what that meant. I wanted to ask if the kiss had been real. I wanted to ask if he felt this too. Instead, I said nothing, because some answers were too dangerous. The next afternoon, I went to Blackwell Tower with coffee. I told myself it was polite, a thank you, nothing more. Lies, all lies. Ethan smiled when he saw me. "Mr. Blackwell is in a meeting. I'll just leave this in his office." His door was slightly open. I stepped inside. Everything was elegant, organized, perfect, exactly like Damian. I placed the coffee on his desk. Then something caught my attention. A black folder, partially hidden beneath another document. My name? Amelia Carter. I froze. Slowly, I reached for it. I should have walked away. I didn't. I opened it and felt my blood run cold. Background investigation. Amelia Carter. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. I flipped through the pages. My employment history, my bank records, my apartment, my grandfather, everything, every private detail of my life. Documented, investigated, cataloged. My hands began shaking. I remembered every accusation, every insult, every look, because he never trusted me, not even once. Then another document slipped from the folder, folded neatly. I picked it up, opened it, and my world stopped. Divorce agreement. The words blurred. Then I saw the signature. Damian Blackwell. Already signed, already prepared, already waiting. The man who had kissed me, the man who said I was more important than anyone, the man who said he didn't regret marrying me anymore, had already signed divorce papers. Maybe every moment had been fake. Maybe I had been stupid enough to believe him. Footsteps echoed outside. Steady, familiar. Damian! The office door opened. His eyes landed on the file, then on the divorce papers, then on me. For the first time since I met him, I saw panic on Damian Blackwell's face. Real panic. Not anger, not irritation, not arrogance. Fear. My hands were shaking. The investigation file sat open on the desk. The divorce papers were still in my hands. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The silence was unbearable. Then Damian took a step forward. "Amelia." I immediately stepped back. "No." His face tightened. "Let me explain." I laughed. A broken sound, the kind that comes right before tears. "Explain what?" I held up the investigation file. "This?" Then the divorce papers. "Or this." His jaw clenched. My chest hurt. Actually hurt. Because somehow, this hurt more than it should have. Much more. I threw the investigation file onto the desk. "You investigated me." His eyes closed briefly, like he already knew there was no defense. "You thought I was a gold digger." Silence. "You thought I was lying." Silence. His eyes lifted. "I was wrong." The words came immediately. Too immediately. Like he'd been carrying them for weeks. I laughed again. "After what?" My voice cracked. "After you found enough evidence? After you decided I wasn't dangerous? After you approved me?" His face darkened. "That's not fair." I stared at him. Fair? Tears burned behind my eyes. "You had people digging through every part of my life." I held up the file. "My bank records, my apartment, my grandfather, everything." His expression shifted. Regret. Real regret. "I know." "Do you?" The words exploded out of me. "Do you know what it feels like? To trust someone and find this? It is all fake. It has been, at least for you." I was stupid to think you actually cared. The room fell silent. The word trust seemed to hit him harder than everything else, because he heard it. I trusted him. Past tense. Then I looked down at the divorce papers, and somehow, those hurt more. My voice became smaller, dangerously smaller. You already signed. His entire expression changed, immediately, as if we'd reached the real wound. Amelia, you already signed. I repeated it, because I needed to hear it, needed it to make sense. The man who kissed me, the man who watched me like I was the only woman in the room, the man who couldn't sleep, the man who bought my favorite coffee, had signed divorce papers before any of that, before us, before whatever this had become. My throat tightened. You were always planning to leave me? No. The answer came instantly. Too fast. Too certain. I stared. Then Damian did something he'd never done before. He stopped hiding. The papers were signed months ago. Silence. I signed them the week after our wedding. His voice was rough. Back when I thought you married me for money. My heart twisted, because that part made sense. Horrible sense. He stepped closer, carefully, like I might disappear. I never filed them. I said nothing. I never sent them. Still nothing. I never wanted them after... His voice stopped. The words caught somewhere inside him. My chest tightened. After what? After the hospital? After Grandpa? After the kiss? After falling in love? Neither of us said it. But it was standing between us. Huge. Terrifying. Real. Then I looked down at the papers again. My signature line, blank, empty, waiting, and suddenly something inside me broke. A fresh tear rolled down my cheek. I laughed through the pain. You know what's funny? Damian looked confused. I picked up the pen from his desk. The only thing missing, my hand shook violently, is my signature. His entire body went still. Amelia. I bent down, signed my name, Amelia Carter. The ink dried instantly. So did my heart. For 1 second, Damian simply stared, like he couldn't believe what I'd done. Then I placed the papers on the desk, between us. Finished, final, done. His face lost all color. Amelia, don't. I stepped back, tears running freely now. Congratulations. The words came out shattered. You finally got what you wanted. Then I turned and walked out. Before he could stop me, before he could explain, before I completely fell apart. The elevator ride down felt endless. The drive home felt worse. By the time I reached the mansion, I could barely see through my tears. I went straight to my room, opened a suitcase, and started packing. Clothes, shoes, photographs, anything, everything. I just needed to leave. Every corner of that house reminded me of him. The coffee, the library, the balcony, the hallway, the stupid dining room, everywhere. Memories were waiting, and suddenly every memory hurt. An hour later, I carried my suitcase downstairs. Damian was waiting. Of course he was. He stood near the front door, looking like a man who hadn't moved since I left his office. His eyes immediately found the suitcase. Something inside him seemed to break. Don't do this, I laughed bitterly. That's rich, Amelia. No, I shook my head. You don't get to stop me. His jaw tightened. I made a mistake. A mistake? I pointed toward the office upstairs. That wasn't a mistake. That was a choice. Silence. I chose you. The words escaped before he could stop them. Both of us froze. My heart stopped. His eyes widened slightly, because he hadn't meant to say it. Not yet, not like that. The confession hung between us. Raw, dangerous, real. I wanted to believe him. God help me, I wanted to. But the papers existed. The investigation existed. The betrayal existed. And those things were louder. I looked away, then walked past him, straight out the door. This time, he didn't stop me. Maybe because he knew he couldn't. The drive to Grandpa's house was the hardest drive of my life. By the time I arrived, I was emotionally exhausted. Grandpa opened the door, one look at me, and his smile disappeared. What happened? I immediately burst into tears, the kind you can't hold back, the kind that steal your breath. Grandpa wrapped his arms around me, and for the first time in weeks, I felt safe. The next morning, my phone started ringing. Damian. I ignored it. Then another call. Ignored, then another, ignored. Messages followed. I didn't read them. Voicemails followed. I deleted them. The next day was worse. Flowers arrived. I sent them back. A gift arrived. I returned it. Another gift. Returned. Another. Returned. By the third day, Grandpa was openly entertained. I've never seen a billionaire suffer this much. I glared at him. Grandpa laughed. He deserves it. That part I agreed with. On the fourth day, there was a knock at the door. Grandpa stood. I didn't move. Another knock, then another, then another. My stomach tightened, because somehow I already knew. Grandpa opened the front door, then froze. I couldn't see who was outside. But Grandpa's expression changed immediately. Shock, confusion, disbelief. Slowly, I stood. Grandpa looked outside, then asked quietly, "How long have you been standing there?" Silence. Then Damian's voice answered, low, rough, exhausted. "As long as it takes." My heart stopped. I moved closer, close enough to see him. Damian stood outside in the rain. No umbrella, no driver, no security. Just him. His clothes soaked, his hair wet, his eyes locked on the house, locked on me. And for the first time since I met Damian Blackwell, he looked like a man terrified of losing the woman he loved. And for the first time since I met Damian Blackwell, he looked like a man terrified of losing the woman he loved. Rain poured over him. His clothes were soaked. His hair was wet. His eyes stayed locked on mine. Grandpa stood at the door, staring between us. Then he sighed. "Well, I'm too old for dramatic rain scenes." I didn't move. Damian didn't move. Grandpa stepped aside. "Come in before you both catch pneumonia." Damian entered slowly, like he was afraid one wrong move would make me disappear. I crossed my arms, not because I was strong, because I was shaking. Grandpa vanished into the kitchen, very obviously pretending not to listen. Damian stood in front of me, no arrogance, no control, no billionaire mask, just him. "Amelia." My name sounded broken in his voice. I looked away. "Don't. I love you." Everything stopped. The rain, the room, my breath, my heart. Slowly, I looked back at him. He looked terrified, like those 3 words had cost him everything. "I love you," he said again. "Saying it doesn't fix what you did. I know. You hurt me. I know. You made me feel like everything between us was fake." His face tightened. "Nothing about what I feel for you is fake." Tears burned my eyes. I wanted to believe him. That was the dangerous part. I wanted to. But trust doesn't return just because the heart begs for it. So I stepped back. "I can't forgive you tonight." Damian nodded. Pain flashed across his face, but he didn't argue. "I'll wait." The next morning, he was still there, not inside the house. Outside, fixing Grandpa's broken gate, in a suit shirt with rolled sleeves, looking completely out of place. Grandpa stood beside me at the window, sipping tea. He's terrible with tools. I almost smiled. Almost. Damian returned the next day. And the next. No flowers, no diamonds, no expensive apologies, just him, driving Grandpa to checkups, carrying groceries, repairing a leaking sink, sitting quietly on the porch when I refused to speak. He stopped trying to buy forgiveness. He started earning it. That was worse, because it worked. Slowly, quietly, painfully. One afternoon, I walked into the living room and stopped. Grandpa was asleep in his chair. A blanket covered his legs. A glass of water sat beside him. Damian sat nearby, working on his laptop. Every few minutes, he looked up, checking on him, making sure he was comfortable, making sure he was breathing easily. Grandpa wasn't even awake. Nobody was watching. At least Damian thought nobody was watching, which meant he wasn't doing it for credit. He was doing it because he cared. My heart tightened, because this wasn't the man I thought I married. This was someone else, someone better. A few days later, Damian handed me a small wooden box. I frowned. What is this? Open it. Suspicion immediately filled me, but I opened it anyway. Inside were memories. My breath caught. A hospital parking ticket, an old coffee sleeve, a photograph, the charity gala, the night he caught me when I fell. I looked up, confused. Why do you have these? For the first time in my life, I saw Damian Blackwell look embarrassed. Actually embarrassed. His ears even turned slightly red. The sight was adorable and dangerous. His eyes dropped briefly. Then he admitted, "Because they remind me of you." My heart forgot how to beat. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Neither of us moved. The silence felt intimate, fragile, beautiful. Then Grandpa walked in, took one look at us, and immediately groaned. Oh, for heaven's sake, both of us jumped apart. Grandpa rolled his eyes. If you two stare at each other any harder, somebody is going to catch fire. My face turned bright red. Damian looked equally horrified. Grandpa laughed, then pointed at Damian. "If you keep looking at her like that, propose already." Damian nearly choked. I wanted the floor to swallow me whole. Grandpa looked delighted. The old man was enjoying this far too much. That night, I couldn't sleep. Again. I stepped outside onto the small balcony. The cool air brushed against my skin. A few moments later, footsteps sounded behind me. I smiled before I could stop myself. Damian, of course. He stopped beside me, close, not touching, but close enough. For several moments, neither of us spoke. Then I quietly said, "I hated you." His mouth curved sadly. "I deserve that." "Then I understood you." Another silence. "Then I liked you." His eyes softened. And then my voice trembled. I placed my hand over his heart. "Then I loved you." Damian closed his eyes, like the words had saved him. When he opened them again, they were shining. He took my face gently in his hands. "Say it again." I smiled through tears. "I love you." He kissed me, slowly, tenderly, like he was afraid to break the moment, like he was promising something, like he was finally home. And this time, I kissed him back without fear. A week later, Damian asked me to dress nicely. I became suspicious immediately. He refused to explain, which made me even more suspicious. An hour later, we arrived at Blackwell Memorial Hospital. My stomach tightened. "This is where everything started," he said softly. We walked inside. The lobby looked different. White flowers, soft music, warm lights, doctors, nurses, people smiling. Then I saw Grandpa standing near the windows, grinning. My eyes narrowed immediately. "Grandpa?" He raised both hands. "I know nothing." Liar. Damian took my hand. His fingers were trembling. That shocked me more than anything. Damian Blackwell never got nervous, yet he looked terrified. He turned toward me, his eyes holding mine. "This is where I learned who you really were." His voice was rough. "This is where I realized the woman I misunderstood had given up her freedom to save someone she loved." Tears filled my eyes. "This is where I started falling in love with you." Then he lowered himself onto one knee. My hand flew to my mouth. Around us, the entire room fell silent. Damian opened a small velvet box. The ring inside shimmered softly, elegant, beautiful, perfect, just like the moment. The first time I married you, it was a contract. His voice shook. The first time, I thought money mattered. A tear escaped down my cheek. The first time, I was too blind to see the woman standing in front of me. More tears followed. Damian's eyes never left mine. This time, his voice broke. Marry me because I love you. I could barely breathe, but he wasn't finished. Not because my grandfather forced me. Not because of $10 million. Not because of a contract. Not because you need me. His eyes shone. Because I need you. My heart shattered completely, in the best possible way. Because every morning starts better when you're there. Because every room feels empty when you're not. Because I don't want a future that doesn't have you in it. Tears streamed freely down my face. Grandpa was crying. Several nurses were crying. Honestly, half the room was crying. Damian looked up at me, waiting, vulnerable, terrified. Mine. I nodded, then laughed through my tears. Yes, the relief on his face nearly broke me. He stood immediately, pulled me into his arms, and kissed me. The hospital erupted into applause, but I barely heard any of it, because Damian was holding me. And this time there was nothing fake between us. 3 months later, I stood at the top of the aisle wearing white. Not City Hall, not lawyers, not contracts. A real wedding. Grandpa stood beside me, proud, emotional, happy. You ready, sweetheart? I looked toward the altar. Damian was already watching me, like he couldn't believe I was real, like he still couldn't believe I chose him. Yes, Grandpa walked me down the aisle, slowly, carefully, like he had dreamed about this moment his entire life. When he placed my hand in Damian's, he whispered, "Take care of my girl." Damian's voice was thick with emotion, always. Our vows were simple. Mine trembled, his broke. But every word was real. Every promise was real. Every feeling was real. When the officiant smiled and said, "You may kiss your bride," Damian didn't hesitate. His hands found my face. His lips found mine. And the world disappeared, just like it always did with him. The $10 million saved my grandfather, but the contract marriage gave me something far more valuable. It gave me Damian, the man I never wanted, the man I almost lost, the man who fought for me, the man who chose me, not for 1 year, not for a contract, but forever. And this time, neither of us was ever letting go. You